The synth flesh of your face throbbed, a dull ache behind your optic implants as consciousness flickered back grudgingly. Rain, cold and laced with the city's toxic breath, stung your exposed skin. You were sprawled in a narrow, reeking alley, the kind the megacorps forgot, or rather, intentionally ignored. Towering, grimy chrome and concrete structures clawed the perpetually overcast sky, their lower levels a chaotic tapestry of flickering neon signs advertising illicit data brokers, pleasure parlors, and cut-rate cybernetics. The air tasted of ozone, stale synth smoke, and something metallic you couldn't quite place. Your head spun, a scrambled data stream of fragmented images and static, offering no coherent memory of how you'd ended here, a forgotten cog in the city's churning machinery. Your optic implants whirred, adjusting to the oppressive gloom, cutting through the static. The alley was a canyon of trash and forgotten dreams. Mounds of discarded synth packaging, a tangle of frayed data cables, and what looked suspiciously like a severed cybernetic limb lay scattered amidst puddles reflecting the sickly glow of distant neon. A pervasive stench of decay and chemicals clung to everything. Near your outstretched hand, a mangled chrome data pad, its screen cracked and dark, pulsed with a faint, dying amber light. The only sound, beyond the incessant drip of the rain, was the low, guttural hum of the city's power grid, a constant reminder of the Leviathan above. Your fingers, numb and stiff, closed around the mangled chrome. It felt cold, slick with rain and something else, something metallic and faintly organic. You pressed the almost invisible power button. The cracked screen flickered, a burst of static, then a single urgent line of text flashed in glitching emerald characters. Mech head bar. Urgent drop. Code Orpheus. Before you could process it, the amber light died, leaving the datapad a dead slab of metal and glass in your grasp. The message hung in your mind, a digital ghost, a fragment of purpose in the urban sprawl's indifferent hum. Mech Head Bar. The name resonated with a faint, unsettling familiarity, like a half-remembered dream of cheap synth ale and greasy data deals. The rain continued its relentless assault, washing the alley clean of everything but the pervasive stench of decay and the lingering question of who or what awaited you there. Your numb fingers splayed across the wet concrete, tracing the contours of the trash-strewn ground around where the data pad lay. Your optic implants, still struggling against the persistent static, picked out faint details. More discarded synth packaging, the slick, oily sheen of spilled nutrient paste, and a scattering of spent neurostim injectors, the detritus of 1,000 forgotten lives. There was no wallet, no ID chip, no obvious weapon, nothing that could tell you who you were or why you were here. Just the cold, hard reality of the alley and the lingering scent of ozone and stale synth blood. A flicker of movement at the edge of your vision. A scuttling synth rat, its chrome eye glinting, vanished into a pile of refuse. The message, Mechhead Bar, urgent drop, code Orpheus, echoed in the hollow space where your memories should have been, a beacon in the digital fog. The rain became a relentless curtain as you pushed through the alley's choked exit, the datapad's dead weight a cold reminder in your palm. The street was a river of silk, black asphalt, reflecting the garish fractured light of 1,000 neon signs that screamed their corporate mantras into the bruised sky. Synth flesh bodies, draped in rain-slicked chrome and worn-out textiles, hurried past, their faces obscured by hoods or data masks, each a ghost in the urban maelstrom. The air, thick with exhaust fumes, fried synth noodles, and the metallic tang of ozone scraped at your throat. Following the faded, glitching street signs and a faint internal compass, you navigated a labyrinth of shadowed arcades and grimy thoroughfares. The city, a living, breathing machine of indifferent power. Finally, through a haze of rain and flickering holographic advertisements for Synth Joy and Neural Boost, you spotted it, the Mechhead Bar. A low, squat structure of ferroconcrete and rusted corrugated steel, it looked less like a destination and more like a scar on the city's face. A single, broken neon sign, its red light sputtering like a dying heart, announced its presence above a heavy, dented metal door. The bass throb of synth music, muffled and distorted, vibrated through the structure. A pulse in the city's dark veins. The heavy metal door groaned open, a rusty sigh swallowed by the cacophony within. You stepped into a cavern where the city's underbelly had truly taken root. The air was a thick, breathing thing, heavy with synth smoke, stale synth ale, and the electric tang of cheap neural stimulants. Distorted bass thumped through the ferrocrete floor, vibrating in your bones, a constant low-frequency hum that worked its way into your optic implants. The lighting was a cynical joke. Broken neon signs sputtered in greens and purples, casting long, writhing shadows that danced with every flicker. Figures, their faces often obscured by cybernetic enhancements, data masks, or the sheer weight of their own misery, hunched over tables or leaned against the pockmarked bar, their conversations a low, guttural murmur against the sonic assault. You moved with a practiced ease you didn't remember owning, a ghost in the machine, your eyes sweeping the room, taking in the frayed edges of this forgotten corner of the world. No one seemed to notice or care. They were all too deep in their own private hells, chasing the next hit, the next score, the next oblivion. The dead datapad felt heavy in your palm, its silent message still echoing in the static of your mind. Mechhead Bar, urgent drop. Code Orpheus. The name hung in the smoky air, a whisper in a scream, and you knew with a certainty that transcended memory that someone here was waiting.
Your optic implants whirred, cutting through the haze of smoke and fractured light, sifting through the visual noise. The booths lining the far wall were deeper, darker canyons within the bar's gloom, each a private kingdom of whispers and illicit transactions. Most held huddles of chrome-plated gangers, their laughter harsh and metallic, or lone figures lost in the glow of their data slates. But then your optics locked on to a specific shadow. Tucked into the furthest, most obscured booth, a figure sat motionless, almost unnaturally still amidst the bar's throbbing chaos. They were draped in a heavy, dark coat, the collar pulled high, obscuring their face in the perpetual twilight of the booth. A single, almost imperceptible gleam of polished chrome from what might have been a forearm or a neckjack caught the erratic light of a dying neon sign. There was no data slate, no drink, no visible engagement with anything. Just that profound stillness, an unnatural anchor in the storm of the Mechhead bar. It was the kind of stillness that screamed, waiting. And for a moment, an unbidden thought, cold and sharp as a shard of glass, cut through the static in your mind. Orpheus. You drifted towards the bar, a phantom in the haze, the synth flesh of your face still throbbing with a phantom ache. The bartender, a hulking mass of scarred synth skin and chrome, with eyes that glowed a malevolent red, gave you a grunt that might have been a greeting. "What'll it be, ghost?" His voice was a rasp of static and rust. You ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a Nuke Cola, a sickly green liquid that pulsed with an unnatural light. He slammed it down, the glass sticky, and you paid with a handful of cred chips you didn't remember acquiring. The Nuke Cola tasted like battery acid and artificial sweeteners, a perfect metaphor for the city. As you nursed the drink, your optic implants, now accustomed to the gloom, kept the figure in the furthest booth in sharp focus. They remained motionless, a still point in the bar's chaotic churn, a silent predator or a lost soul. The glint of chrome from their obscured form seemed to catch every errant flicker of neon, drawing your gaze, a cold magnetic in the smoky air. You felt a prickle on your synth skin, the unsettling sensation of being watched, or perhaps of being recognized by someone you couldn't remember. You pushed off from the sticky bar, the Nuke Cola's acrid taste still coating your tongue. Each step towards the furthest booth felt like a wade through a thickened air, a gauntlet of low-frequency thrum and the murmur of forgotten voices. The bar's denizens, lost in their own neural haze, paid you no mind. Their collective indifference, a kind of protective shroud. As you neared, the figure in the booth remained a statue carved from shadow and chrome. The heavy coat, now closer, seemed to absorb the meager light, its fabric a dense weave of something synthetic and ancient. A faint, almost imperceptible hum like a distant data stream emanated from their direction. You could make out the sharp, precise line of a jaw, partially obscured, and the unmistakable gleam of a complex neckjack, its intricate wiring a stark contrast to the rough fabric of their clothing. Their head tilted slightly, not a movement you could have sworn to, but a shift in the air, a subtle acknowledgement of your approach. No eyes met yours from the depths of the hood, no hand moved, just that profound, unsettling stillness, a silent challenge in the heart of the city's noise. This was it. The air around them felt charged, a compressed field of potential energy, and in the static of your mind, the word Orpheus pulsed with a new, terrifying clarity.
You leaned closer, the bass thrumming against your teeth, and the single word, Orpheus, escaped your lips, a low, rasping whisper lost in the bar's din. It wasn't a question, but a declaration, a key turning in a lock you didn't remember setting. The figure in the booth remained motionless for a beat, a long, agonizing second where the entire bar seemed to hold its breath, though no one else had heard. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, the heavily gloved hand of the figure moved just a fraction of an inch, revealing a glimpse of scarred, almost skeletal synth flesh beneath the cuff of the heavy coat. A low, gravelly voice, laced with the crackle of a faulty vocalizer, finally cut through the static, a sound like grinding gears. "Took you long enough, Ghost. I thought the city finally swallowed you whole." The hood remained a shadowed abyss, but you felt the weight of unseen eyes, ancient and cold, assessing you, dissecting you. A sudden sharp jolt of raw data hit your neural net, a fragmented image of a rain-slicked rooftop, the flash of a plasma rifle, and the familiar, almost comforting scent of ozone and burning chrome. It was gone as quickly as it came, leaving behind a phantom ache behind your optic implants and the chilling realization, this wasn't the first time. Your silence hung in the thick air, a challenge in itself. The figure in the booth didn't flinch, didn't move. The unseen eyes behind the hood seemed to bore into you, sifting through your very essence, searching for something. The faulty vocalizer crackled again, a low, dismissive sound that grated on your augmented hearing. Right. The fall must have scrambled more than just your comms. Look, Ghost, we don't have time for your memory games. The package, you still got it? A hand, still gloved, but now visibly scarred with intricate biocircuitry that snaked beneath the synth skin, slid across the grimy table, palm up, a silent, demanding gesture. The sudden mention of a package ignited another flare of static behind your optic implants, a blur of chrome briefcases and encrypted data, just out of reach, like a half-remembered dream of cheap synth ale and greasy data deals. The bass thrummed, the bar's noise a distant roar, but here, in the shadow of Orpheus, the silence was deafening, the air thick with unspoken threats and forgotten loyalties.
More information? The faulty vocalizer grated, a sound like gravel churning in rusty gears. Orpheus's hand, still outstretched, didn't waver. A low, humorless chuckle rumbled from deep within the hood, a sound devoid of mirth. Cut the static, Ghost. You know what it is. The data shard. The one with the schematics for Project Chimera. The one you were supposed to deliver an hour ago, before you went off-grid. The words were delivered with a chilling precision, each one a razor edge against your frayed nerves. A new flash, hotter and more violent than before, seared through your neural net. A gleaming chrome briefcase, its lock intricate and humming. A glimpse of complex, shifting holograms within. Project Chimera. The name resonated with a deep primal fear, a corporate ghost story whispered in the dark corners of the net. Orpheus leaned forward, the movement subtle but heavy with menace. Don't tell me you lost it, because if you did, Ghost, the fall will be the least of your problems. Arasaka doesn't forget, and neither do I. The air in the booth crackled, suddenly too thin to breathe. The bar's thrumming bass seemed to pulse with a predatory rhythm, the city itself holding its breath.
The suggestion hung in the air, a momentary ripple in the bar's sonic assault. Orpheus's head, still hidden by the deep hood, tilted fractionally, a predator assessing a sudden, unexpected move. The faulty vocalizer sputtered, a sound like a wet short circuit. Secure location. The words were drawn out, heavy with a dangerous skepticism. You think this place is the problem, Ghost, or are you just trying to buy time? Arasaka's netrunners probably already have a dozen active tracers on this sector, and their wetwork teams are likely deployed. A low, guttural growl rumbled from the depths of the coat, a sound that vibrated through the table and into your synth flesh. We move, we risk exposing the package even further. Every second you hold on to that shard, the target on your back grows larger. Do you have a specific secure location in mind, or are you just improvising? The question wasn't an invitation for discussion. It was a demand for competence, laced with a barely concealed threat. The air in the booth was thick with the scent of stale synthale and the metallic tang of fear, both yours and perhaps a hint of Orpheus's own. The city outside, a leviathan of chrome and shadow, seemed to press in, its hunger palpable.
The Forgotten Terminal, you rasped, the name feeling both alien and deeply familiar on your tongue. Sector 7, old transit hub, deep under the industrial district. It's a graveyard of forgotten data lines, but that's its strength. No corporate jurisdiction. Too much dead space for a reliable trace, and enough physical choke points to spot a tail from a mile away. Orpheus's head, still shrouded in the deep hood, tilted fractionally. The faulty vocalizer buzzed,
a sound like a wet short circuit. The terminal, a relic ghost, a place where the city goes to forget its mistakes. You think Arasaka hasn't already mapped every rat run in Sector 7? They don't forget, they adapt. A low, guttural growl rumbled from within the heavy coat. Convince me, what makes it neutral enough to risk a direct handover of Project Chimera's schematics there and not here, under my watchful eye? You're buying time or you're bluffing. Which is it? The air in the booth was suddenly heavy, thick with the scent of stale synth ale and the metallic tang of fear, both yours and perhaps a hint of Orpheus's own. The city outside, a leviathan of chrome and shadow, seemed to press in, its hunger palpable, waiting for your next move.
Arasaka maps every rat run. Yes, you countered, your voice dropping to a low, conspiratorial rasp, cutting through the bar's thrum. But the terminal isn't a rat run. It's a black hole. Its ancient infrastructure predates the modern corporate grid. Think corrupted data lines, ghost signals, and enough electromagnetic interference from the derelict generators to scramble a dozen Arasaka Netrunner traces. It's too much noise for their clean sweep algorithms, too much dead space for their deep scan protocols. They see it as a waste of resources to maintain constant surveillance, a digital graveyard where nothing of value should exist. You leaned in further, emphasizing each point. Physically, it's a labyrinth of crumbling ferrocrete and rusted steel. The main access points are few and easily monitored from the elevated platforms. Any approach can be seen a mile off, and once inside, the corridors are a maze of collapsed sections and blind corners, perfect for losing a tail or for setting an ambush. It's not just forgotten, Orpheus. It's hostile to external intrusion. It's neutral because no one wants it. The air in the booth, already heavy, seemed to compress even further, the weight of your words a palpable thing. Orpheus remained still, a statue of shadow and threat, but you felt the subtle shift in the air, a minute crack in their skepticism.
Orpheus remained a statue of shadow and chrome, the bar's thrumming bass a distant roar against the sudden sharp silence in the booth. Then, the faulty vocalizer crackled, a sound like dry bones grinding. A specific point. You're either a fool, Ghost, or you're playing a deeper game than I give you credit for. The unseen eyes behind the hood seemed to narrow, their scrutiny palpable. Very well. You want to dance with ghosts in your own graveyard? Where exactly? The question was a challenge, a test of your resolve and your knowledge. You leaned in further, the stale air thick with synth smoke and the metallic tang of old fear. The central platform, beneath the shattered dome where the main transit lines converge. It's the most open area, but also the most defensible. Multiple sight lines from the upper gantries and enough cover in the collapsed kiosks to make a stand. No one gets in or out without being seen. Another beat of silence, heavy and pregnant with unspoken threats. Then,
A low, guttural sigh from Orpheus, a sound of reluctant acceptance. Fine. Central platform, midnight. Don't be late, ghost. Arasaka's clock is ticking, and I'm not known for my patience. The gloved hand, biocircuitry pulsing faintly beneath the synth skin, finally withdrew from the table. The conversation was over. The game, however, had just begun.
The agreement with Orpheus hung in the air, a fragile truce born of necessity. Midnight, central platform, the forgotten terminal. Your mind replayed the chilling precision of their threats, the casual mention of Arasaka. You were a ghost with no memory, heading into a digital graveyard, and you were unarmed. The thought was a cold knot in your gut, a stark reminder of your vulnerability. Your optic implants, still struggling with the persistent static, began a rapid scan of your immediate surroundings, filtering through the bar's chaotic visual noise for anything that could serve as a deterrent, a blade, a blunt instrument. The tables were mostly pockmarked ferrocrete, the chairs flimsy synth plastic, the floor slick with spilled synth ale and unidentifiable grime offered little but discarded bio-wraps and spent neurostim injectors. Your eyes drifted to the walls, a peeling tapestry of rusted corrugated steel and crumbling plaster, where the building's skeletal rebar occasionally poked through like diseased bone. The air, thick with stale smoke and the metallic tang of fear, seemed to mock your desperation. Every shadow felt like a hiding place for unseen threats, every glint of chrome a potential blade. You needed something, anything, to feel less like a lamb walking into a slaughterhouse. Your fingers, still numb, but now with a surge of desperate adrenaline, found purchase on a thick, rust-encrusted length of rebar protruding from a cracked section of ferrocrete wall. You dug in, muscles you didn't remember owning, straining as you pulled, grunted. The metal shrieked, a sound like tortured synth flesh, tearing through the bass-heavy din of the bar. Dust and ancient plaster showered down, clinging to your synth skin. For a moment, it seemed fused, a permanent fixture of this decaying architecture. But then, with a final desperate heave, the rebar groaned free, ripping a larger chunk of the wall with it. You stumbled back, the heavy, crudely sharpened length of metal, a cold, solid weight in your hands. It was crude, uneven, but undeniably a weapon. A few chrome-plated gangers at a nearby table glanced over, their red optic implants flickering in the gloom, but quickly dismissed the disturbance, returning to their neural haze. No one cared, not here. You were just another ghost, another broken thing in a broken world, now armed with a piece of its own decay.